श्रीचैतन्येश्वरम् कथाञ्चन स्मृति यस्मिन् दुष्करं सुकरं भवेत् विस्मृति विपरीतं स्यात् श्रीचैतन्यं Rudradeep Nimai Prabhu, could you share screen, please? Any volunteers to read today?
Ganesh number, I'll read.
Okay, Mans, please go ahead.
Yes, sir. Conditions on the ISKCON land in Bhubaneswara were primitive. Two small mud-walled huts with thatched roof. Srila Prabhupada occupied one 8 by 12 room in one of the cottages, and his servant and secretary stayed just on the other side of the wall. Electricity had been installed on the land a few days before, so Harishauri had placed an electric lamp and the dictating machine on Prabhupada's desk. The second small building, about 25 feet from Prabhupada's hut, was a tiny temporary temple room. A shabby canvas roof spanned the open area between two buildings, and Prabhupada's Vyasasana was beneath this, arranged so he could lecture at outdoor gatherings. Two rented tents also stood on the land to accommodate visiting devotees during Prabhupada's stay. Prabhupada's outdoor toilet facilities, about 25 feet behind his hut, consisted of a latrine and a separate area for bathing. Srila Prabhupada did not mind the primitive facilities. In fact, he liked them. Although he was ill and for personal comfort could have been residing in his choice of comfortable buildings in the West, a manor in London, a castle in Paris, a penthouse apartment in New York City, he felt perfectly at home and happy living in a primitive mud and thatched hut on a secluded patch of land in the dust of Orissa. Sitting on the outdoor Vyasasana, Prabhupada spoke to a small gathering of devotees and some local villagers. Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, he said, had two favorite places, Bengal and Orissa. And in Orissa, Jagannath Puri, he spent the last 18 years of his life. He went to Vrindavana and South India, but then he returned here to stay with his personal associates, Sri Ramananda Raya, Sarvabhauma Bhattacharya, and Shikimahiti. Prabhupada quoted a scriptural reference indicating that the spiritual movement for this age will begin from Utkala or Orissa. Srila Prabhupada said Orissa was very special to the Gaudiya Vaishnavas, and his own Guru Maharaja was also born here at Puri. Now we have got a little place here, he said. It doesn't matter if it takes time, but slowly but surely we can develop this center, especially since Bhubaneswara is going to be the capital of Orissa. In the future, the in the future, many tourists will come to see other attractions of Orissa. Now it's up to the audience to develop this idea. Prabhupada spoke with Gaura Govinda Swami and told him to begin advertising private meetings in the afternoon and a regular lecture Kirtana Prasadam program at night. That evening, very few visitors came. ISKCON had done little preaching in Orissa, and Prabhupada was not as well known. Mostly local farmers, villagers, and poor children came for the free prasadam. Prabhupada told the audience that he could speak in three languages, English, Bengali, and Hindi, but not Oriya. He therefore decided to speak in English and have Gaura Govinda translate. He would speak a few sentences and then pause while Gaur Govinda gave the Oriya. In this material world, said Prabhupada during his evening lecture, always the attempt is to defy the supremacy of the Supreme Personality of Godhead. At the present moment, the so-called scientists' only business is how to defy the supremacy of God. Naturally, this movement has to face many impediments because at the present moment, the whole world is practically godless. Even in a country, in India, where Bhagavad Gita was spoken by the Supreme Personality of Godhead Krishna. Even here, the same attempt is going on. Big scholars, big politicians, they take Bhagavad Gita in their hand to show that they are great authorities in Bhagavad Gita, but they are presenting commentation just to defy Krishna. Prabhupada spoke for about 10 minutes. There were no questions. Bhuvaneshwara's hot days and cool nights just suited Prabhupada. After resting for few hours, he rose and began translating Srimad Bhagavatam. It was the first time he had done so since leaving Bombay for Kumbh Mela. He was nearing the end of the ninth canto. Gaur Govinda Maharaja had scheduled a cornerstone laying ceremony for a new temple on February 2, the appearance day of Lord Nityananda. Prabhupada agreed to stay until then and leave the next morning. Srila Prabhupada's failing health prevented him from eating fried foods. His expert cooks in Bhuvaneshwara, Palika Devi Dasi and Shruti Rupa Devi Dasi, carefully prepared meals that were nutritious and tasty but without ghee. Sometimes, however, he specifically requested certain fried foods but would later complain that they didn't agree with him. Rameshwara Swami, Gargamuni Swami, and Bhavananda Goswami were sitting with Srila Prabhupada in his hut discussing deprogramming cases with him. They were saying that these enemies of ISKCON were so fanatical that for Srila Prabhupada to go to America would be dangerous. Srila Prabhupada interrupted, however, changing the subject. Our immediate problem, he said, is toward my health. I am not digesting food. Therefore, there is some swelling in the hands and the legs. Is it affecting your translation work? Asked Rameshwar Swami. That is that it has not affected, said Prabhupada. It's going on. I have translated 17 volumes. That may not be affected. He reached over and turned on the dictating machine, and they heard a few seconds of his most recent dictation from the 24th chapter of ninth canto. We know you have a very low opinion of doctors, said Rameshwara Swami. I wish to die without a doctor, Prabhupada said. I may be seriously ill, but don't call a doctor. Chant Hare Krishna. Don't be disturbed. Everyone has to die. Let us die peacefully, without doctor. All this medicine, injections and prohibitions, this, that. Chant Hare Krishna and depend on Krishna. Nartasya chagadam udanmati. That is Prahlad Maharaj's verse. Find out this seventh canto. Harishauri reached to Prabhupada's bookcase for the seventh canto, volume 2 of Srimad Bhagavatam. Within a few moments, he found the verse and read aloud. My Lord Narsinghdeva, O Supreme, because of bodily conception of life, embodied souls neglected and not cared for by you cannot do anything for their betterment. Whatever remedies they accept, although perhaps temporarily beneficial, are certainly impermanent. For example, a father and mother cannot protect their child, a physician and medicine cannot relieve a suffering patient, and a boat on the ocean cannot protect a drowning man. These are facts, said Prabhupada. That's ultimately, said Gargamuni Swami. But maybe we could give you some temporary relief because when you are ill, we feel, yes, Prabhupada considered, but no severe treatment should be accepted. Better not to take. Better to chant Hare Krishna. Srila Prabhupada said Bhavananda. In the past, when your health was not good, they have begun chanting Hare Krishna in all the temples around the world, a special additional kirtana. Perhaps we could institute that. No, said Prabhupada, not for my health. You do your kirtana ordinary. That first stroke on Second Avenue, that was almost fatal. You were present, I think. Prabhupada turned to Gargamuni and they reminisced about the stroke in 1967. Harishauri said a homeopathic doctor had just prescribed some special medicine and Prabhupada agreed to try it. Gargamuni said that his father used to have a similar swelling, but his had been due to diabetes. I have diabetes, said Prabhupada. Gargamuni Swami said his father used to give himself an insulin injection every morning. There are many gentlemen who take insulin at least once a day, said Prabhupada, although he obviously had no intentions of doing so. Prabhupada's main health program was his diet, but even in that he was not very strict. An Indian cook named Shantilal was present in Bhubaneswara, and he used a lot of spices and ghee in cooking for Gargamuni Swami and his men. Sometimes Prabhupada would ask for some of what Shantilal had cooked, and this greatly disturbed Prabhupada's servants and cooks, although they could do nothing about it. Gargamuni had also been ill recently, and when Prabhupada first saw him with his cook Shantilal, he had said, I thought you were sick. Yes, Gargamuni had replied, but still I have to eat. Srila Prabhupada, you are eating very simply. You are not eating spiced food. Sometimes I also have to have spices, Prabhupada replied. Otherwise, there is no taste. And without that taste, what's the use of life? Then, in a joking spirit, Prabhupada and Gargamuni Swami commiserated, saying they were not going to stop eating tasty prasadam. We'd rather die, laughed Gargamuni Swami, and Prabhupada also laughed. On his last day as Srila Prabhupada's secretary in India, Rameshwara Swami entered Prabhupada's hut and inquired again about war in the future. You have mentioned several times, he began, that there is a conflict which is inevitable between Russia and America. No, said Prabhupada. If they understand Krishna consciousness, both of them, then there will be no conflict. Now we are publishing in Russian. When Rameshwara asked what would happen if many cities were bombed, Prabhupada said that people would come to their senses and adopt a simpler agrarian life, just as the ISKCON farm communities were demonstrating. That will be a good lesson for them, said Prabhupada. So, is this conflict part of the spreading of Krishna consciousness? Oh, yes. Paritranaya sadhuna vinashaya cha dushkritam. To conflict means to finish their sinful activities. Finished. Stop it. So, after the conflict, there will be an opportunity to influence people. We shall take every opportunity, said Prabhupada. We are the best opportunists. Anukulyena Krishna. This is Anukula, favorable for spreading Krishna consciousness, and we shall immediately accept it. It doesn't matter what it is. We do not depend on the public opinion that this is good or this is bad. Good means if it is favorable for spreading Krishna consciousness. Rameshwara said that it seemed the Krishna consciousness movement would have to grow much more before it could actually be as influential as Prabhupada was indicating. It will grow, said Prabhupada. It is growing. Simply our workers should be sincere, very sincere and strict, and it will grow. Nobody can object. That's a fact. Simply we have to be very strict and sincere, and nobody can check. We will be the only ones who have any vision of what to do after the war, said Rameshwar. Yes, said Prabhupada, we have got clear vision. We are not putting any theory. We are always presenting fact, and that is materializing. Just like we started our farm communities, it is materializing gradually. It is not yet fully organized. Still, there is hope that it will give peace to the people. There is sufficient hope. After a few days, more of the people of Bhubaneswara began to visit Srila Prabhupada. One evening, he was in his room speaking with several men when one of them asked, well, Swamiji, actually, what is God? Srila Prabhupada opened his eyes widely in disbelief. What is this? He asked. You are from India and you do not know what is God? This is the degradation of Kali Yuga. Srila Prabhupada continued his sharp criticism and then explained that Indians have the special benefit of Vedic literature and culture. Therefore, every Indian should know God. Prabhupada gave his first public lecture the next evening, and about 150 people attended. He began his lecture. Last night, some gentlemen questioned what is God. Srila Prabhupada explained that Sri Bhagavan personally appears in our country, Bharatavarsha, and leaves his instructions, which have been accepted by the Acharyas. India, Prabhupada explained, is especially favored since God personally incarnates there and imparts his instructions. But at the present moment, Prabhupada continued, our young men are inquiring, what is God? So why has this happened? It has happened because we are making progress toward animal civilization. Anyone with a bodily conception of self, Prabhupada said, anyone thinking of his identity in relation to family, country, or race was no better than a cow or an ass, according to Vedic Shastra. He repeatedly warned that Indians should be careful of sinking to the position of having to ask what is God. Unfortunately, when he called for questions after his lecture, it was the same thing. I want to know the meaning of the word Krishna, a man asked. You do not know what is the meaning of Krishna? Prabhupada retorted. You do not know? The man said something in Odia and then said in English the etymological meaning. Krishna, said Prabhupada, means all attractive. Krish, Karshati, yes. Krishna means the attractive, all attractive. And besides that, you do not know Krishna? That is the difficulty, that our people have become so degraded that they are asking what is God, what is Krishna. Someone has studied the seventh canto of Ramayana, but how he is asking whose father is Sita. So this is the position. We are born in a country where Krishna spoke everything, and now we are asking what is the meaning of Krishna, what is God. This is the position, very degraded position. While Prabhupada rode in his car to the park for his morning walk, he saw billboards and banners announcing that Sanjay Gandhi was coming to town. Sanjay Gandhi's particular political platform was that everyone should become literate. Looking out the window at the poor, barren land, Prabhupada said, what is the benefit of literacy when the people are poor and starving? He said that the local people were coming to ISKCON evening program just to get a little khichdi, not because it was prasadam, but because they were hungry. So, if after many years of education they learned to read but still earned little money and had the same employment, then what was the benefit? Life was not for such education. Prabhupada lamented that so much land was lying uncultivated. Seeing several men jogging, Prabhupada commented that most people were hungry and poor, while a few were living in big houses, overeating, and running to lose fat. So he will educate the people, Srila Prabhupada said, and after some time they will join the Naxalite movement and kill the rich man. No, everyone should be engaged in working the land, Prabhupada said. His ISKCON men should also work because unless they were properly engaged, they would gossip and fall victim to sex desire. Since arriving in Bhubaneswara, Srila Prabhupada had several times talked about going to Jagannath Puri, about an hour away. Since he had hopes of one day building a big center in Puri, he wanted to see some plots of land for sale. He hadn't been to Puri, he said, since 1958. Since his Western disciples were not allowed to enter the Jagannath temple, Prabhupada said he would not I enter either. But he would go to Puri to see what land was available. Early one morning, Prabhupada set out in his car for Puri on the Bay of Bengal. He looked at several properties there, but either their locations were poor or the buildings were deteriorated, or both. Prabhupada walked along the beach with his men and the surf was pounding. I was jumping there, he laughed. In 1920 or 21, I came here. At that time, I was married. I was married in 1918. I came after appearing for my BA examination. And because I was jubilant, I was jumping. When the waves came, I was jumping. Now it is 57 years after. They say we do not change bodies. But where is that body? Now I am walking with stick. Then I was jumping. I'm still here, I remember. But the body has changed. What's the difficulty to understand? I am the same. Otherwise, how I am remembering all these things? But that body is now lost. Tatha dehantara prapti. Why this simple philosophy these rascals cannot understand? Srila Prabhupada stayed a day at the beachside tourist bungalow, and one of his godbrothers, Shyamasundara Brahmachari, from the local Purushottama Gaudiya Mutt visited. After he left, Sri Shiva Rath, a member of the Pujari committee of the Jagannath temple, also came to visit. Prabhupada spoke to him about the possibility of ISKCON devotees entering the Jagannath temple. To bar the Western Vaishnavas from entering the temple was prejudiced and ignorant. Since the members of the Krishna consciousness movement were fully engaged in spiritual life, they should not be considered unfit simply because of their birth status or race. Seva Shivarat was friendly and agreed with Srila Prabhupada. He promised he would do what he could to help. He also told Prabhupada about a book he had just published and invited him to attend a small pandal meeting the next evening at which the book would be inaugurated. Prabhupada agreed. Later, Prabhupada was sitting on the veranda outside his room at the tourist bungalow. As he sat watching Shantilal preparing lunch in the back of Gargamuni's van, he could smell the aromatic spices cooking in the ghee. He called to Gargamuni Swami and asked that a plate of Shantilal's cooking be brought to him. Soon Prabhupada was enjoying a meal of rice, dal, puri, spicy sabjis and chutney. He said that Shantilal cooked wonderfully and that all devotees in ISKCON should learn this art. If the meat eaters could take such prasadam, he said they would give up their sinful habit. As Prabhupada sat in his hotel room that evening with a few disciples at his feet, he reminisced about how he had come to America in 1965 and had suffered 2 heart attacks at sea. They say that anyone who gets a third heart attack, said Prabhupada, they must expire. I had 2 attacks on the ship and then in New York a third one, paralyzed. Left side was paralyzed. I do not know how I was saved. And one girl, that captain's wife, she studied astrology. She said, Swami, if you can survive your 70th year, then you will live for 100 years. Srila Prabhupada and his disciples laughed. So Sri Prabhupada continued, somehow or other, I have survived my 70th year. I do not know whether they say I will live for 100 years, but 70th year was severe, 3 heart attacks and paralysis, and I was without any family. At that time, none of you were with me. I was alone. I wasn't dependent on anyone. But on the ship, I saw that Krishna was going to save me. I was going for his mission. Devotees were regularly bringing up the topics of brainwashing and deprogramming. That evening, one of the devotees mentioned that sometimes the opposition was taking the testimony of the ex disciple of Prabhupada's who would speak against the movement. Because he is a rascal, Prabhupada explained. Therefore, he is excommunicated. My Guru Maharaja kicked him out. So, what is the value of his testimony? That is natural that someone will go out and speak against us. These things will happen in preaching. You cannot expect very smooth path. The devotees agreed, and someone added that one of Jesus' closest disciples had betrayed him. Srila Prabhupada compared the present trouble to the troubles he had encountered when he first came to America. He reminisced further about his near fatal illness in 1967 and his return to India where he had recuperated. But even after returning to America, he commented he had not been able to sleep at night because of a sound in his ear. As long as the body will be there, Prabhupada said, there will be so many troubles. Krishna has advised that they will come and go. Don't care for it. Agama paino nityas tam titikshasva bharata. So bodily troubles, mental troubles, and enemies, so many impediments will come. What can be done? We have to tolerate. That is the material world. We cannot expect smooth, very happy. That is not possible. Krishna was advising that to Arjuna. What to speak of us? Krishna never says, I have made some magic. You will have nothing to suffer. He never gave Arjuna any tablet. So we have to follow that. The modern gurus say, I will give you some magic ash. There will be no trouble. But Krishna, what did he say? He said, no, tolerate. He did not say, you are ass. I will give you some ash. Neither did Arjuna ask, why do you ask me to fight? Give me some ash, I will throw it. He was not such a fool that he asked some magic from Krishna to kill his enemies. Actually, he fought. This is Bhagavad Gita. So, face things as they are and depend on Krishna. That is our duty. Don't expect any ash, miracle, magic. The next morning, from the port, Srila Prabhupada was watching the devotees swimming in the Bay of Bengal. Calling Harishauri over, he said he would like to bathe in the ocean and asked him what he thought about it. Harishauri and the other devotees present all thought it was a good idea. Sea water was supposed to be very good for health, he said. Prabhupada said he would try it and after taking his morning massage, walked down to the seashore wearing his gamcha and carrying a towel. The ocean shore was about 100 yards from the hotel, and by the time Prabhupada reached the water, all the devotees were running after him in their gamchas. Some of the devotees were already in the ocean, and when Prabhupada reached the water's edge, they all gathered around him. As the waves glided in and swirled around Prabhupada's feet, Harishavari scooped palmfuls of water and began to bathe Prabhupada's body, his arms, chest, and head, washing away the mustard seed oil he had applied during the massage. Soon, other devotees began reverently splashing handful of water onto Prabhupada's body. Standing almost up to his knees in water, the bright sunshine illuminating his golden hued body, Prabhupada laughed and the devotees joined in. The devotees realized that this pastime was just like an abhisheka or bathing of the deity, and when Guru Krapa Swami began to sing the prayers for bathing the deity Chintamani Prakara Satmashu, the other devotees joined in, singing and taking part in the Abhisheka by the sea. Srila Prabhupada enjoyed it, sometimes putting his head forward to indicate that he wanted water poured on his head, then closing his eyes as the devotees poured the water. When Prabhupada lost his balance for a moment, Harishauri grabbed him. Prabhupada's feet had been sinking into the sand, and when he held one foot out, it was muddy. As he wriggled his toes, a devotee poured water on the foot, washing it clean. Prabhupada then bent over, put ocean water in his mouth, and spat it out. Only Guru Kripaswamy was quick enough to catch some of the water and drink it. As Prabhupada allowed the devotees to participate in bathing and gently massaging him, the devotees were carried away by ecstatic feelings. After about 10 minutes, Prabhupada came out of the water, changed his clothes, and walked back to the hotel, where two devotees escorted him to a comfortable chair, sat him down, and carried him up to his room for his afternoon rest. In the afternoon, Seva Shiva Rath came again to Sri Prabhupada accompanied by accompanied this time by another Puri Brahmana. They gave Prabhupada some Jagannath Prasadam and sang the Jagannath Ashtakam. In silent appreciation, Prabhupada listened as the Brahmana sang the famous prayer with each verse ending Jagannatha Swami Nayana Patagami Bhavatumi. O Lord of the universe, kindly be visible unto me. When the two Brahmanas finished singing, Prabhupada said, So these European and American Vaishnavas, they are hankering after Jagannatha Swami Nayanapathagami Bhavatumi. Now it is through your intervention that they may be able to see Jagannatha Swami. They are hankering like that, Jagannatha Swami Nayanapathagami. Seva Shivarath again expressed his sympathy about the devotees not entering Jagannath's temple. He also told Prabhupada more about the book he had published, a compilation of select verses from Jagannatha Dasa's translation of the Srimad Bhagavatam into Oriya. Seva Shiva had also written some commentary, and his book was to be inaugurated at a function that evening. Prabhupada again promised to attend and address Puri's Brahmanas and religionists. That evening, Srila Prabhupada was guest of honor at the outdoor pandal on the beach, and his disciples accompanied him to the stage with a rousing kirtana. Prabhupada took his seat. After the kirtana ended, one of the managers of Jagannath temple came forward and garlanded Srila Prabhupada. Seva Shiva then announced, "We thank A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Prabhupada, who has been kind enough to grace this occasion wherein we have assembled this evening to pay our respectful homage to His Holiness Jagannath Das Goswami, who was a contemporary of Lord Chaitanya." Suddenly, about five Brahmanas sitting on the platform rose and walked off the stage to join a kirtan party in front of an altar in a nearby field. It seemed strange to the devotees that these men had to leave just when Srila Prabhupada was going to speak. "I thank you very much," Srila Prabhupada began. But then the sound system failed. Srila Prabhupada paused while one of his own disciples, an electrician, corrected the problem. Srila Prabhupada resumed speaking, his voice amplified above the distraction of the nearby kirtans. So, in our humble way, Prabhupada was saying, we are trying to introduce Jagannatha Swami's culture. Jagannatha Swami Nayanapatagami Bhavatumi. Seva Shiva had invited Prabhupada explicitly to speak about his new book, and Prabhupada had already mentioned privately to his disciples that these people were inviting him to serve their own purpose. But now Prabhupada took the occasion to speak about Lord Jagannatha rather than about the Orient Jagannatha Dasa. He had a, he had a special message in mind. "You will be very much pleased to know," he continued, "that in the year 1967 I introduced the theatre in San Francisco, and it has been going on continually for the last 9 to 10 years. And the government, they have fixed up a holiday for Rath Yatra. We have the 20th of July as government fixed up holiday for Rath Yatra, and people take part in the Rath Yatra. Not only my devotees, but even outsiders. 10 to 12,000 people attend, and we distribute prasadam to all of them. They feel very much obliged." And the newspaper writes that people in general never felt such ecstasy as they are feeling in Rath Yatra festival. The police say that the crowds in the Western countries, as soon as there is a big crowd, they create disturbance. But the police were surprised that this crowd is not a window breaking crowd. Next, we introduced Rath Yatra in London. And in London, Trafalgar Square, it is the most famous square within the city. There is a big column called Nelson's Column. Our Ratha was so high that the Guardian newspaper criticized this Rath Yatra as a rival to Nelson's Column. Next, we introduced Rath Yatra in Philadelphia. And last year, we introduced Rath Yatra in New York. And we also have Rath Yatra in Melbourne and Sydney and in Paris. So, in the Western countries, Rath Yatra is being introduced one after another, and Jagannatha Swami is attracting the attention of the Western people. Suddenly, some of the men on the stage began talking loudly among themselves in Odia. Prabhupada stopped, turned, and said, "What's that?" The talking subsided and he continued. "So people will come in your Jagannatha Puri now from all parts of the world. That is beneficial from various points of view. From the point of view of the tourist program, the government will benefit. When people are attracted to see Jagannath Puri, Jagannatha Swami, that is good. But unfortunately, you do not allow these foreigners to enter the temple. How it can be adjusted? The stumbling block should be resolved, that You want Jagannatha Swami to be compact within your home and you do not expand the mercy of Jagannatha? He is Jagannatha. He is not only just Purinatha or Oryanatha, he is Jagannatha. Krishna declares in the Bhagavad Gita, Bhoktaram Yajna Tapasam Sarvaloka Maheshwaram. That is the definition of Jagannatha Sarvaloka Maheshwara. So why you should deny the inhabitants of Sarvaloka, the darshana of Jagannatha? Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu never approved such things. Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu said, Pratvite ache yata nagaradigrama sarvatra prachara hoibe moranam. When the thing is being done and when they are eager to come here, why you should restrain? What is the cause? That is not very good. Prabhuji, 1 minute, Prabhuji. I just switch on.
Hare Krishna.
Yes, sorry, Prabhuji. My laptop was.
Should I speak something? Anyway, I wanted to speak, but
Yes,
if you want
yes.
more time, you can. Otherwise, I can speak something now.
No, I can continue. Otherwise, if you want to speak, it's okay. I just had to plug the.
But more, I'll speak up.
Yeah, yes. Srila Prabhupada continued to argue that foreigners who had taken to Vaishnavism should be allowed to enter the temple of Lord Jagannatha. Offences to the Vaishnavas, he said, were condemned by Lord Chaitanya. Therefore, Prabhupada declared he had come to Puri specially to request the leaders to remove this offensive restriction and be friendly to the foreign devotees. He invited Puri's leaders to come and see Jagannatha and Radhakrishna temples all over the world and see how the foreigners had actually become pure Vaishnavas, strictly avoiding sinful life. No illicit sex, no meat eating, no fish eating, no egg eating, no intoxication, no gambling, said Prabhupada. Why you should not receive them as Vaishnava and give them proper reception? That is my request. I hope there are many learned scholars and devotees present here. They should endeavor to remove this restriction of short-sightedness and let us combinedly work with Jagannatha to preach the bhakti cult for the benefit of the whole world. As Prabhupada finished his lecture, Harishauri leaned forward and asked Prabhupada if he wanted to answer questions. But Seva Shiva came quickly to Prabhupada's side and said, No, don't put their questions. Seva Shiva picked up the small paperback volume which was supposed to have been the topic of the evening's presentation. The Bhagavata of Jagannatha, said Seva Shiva, and he handed it to Srila Prabhupada, requesting him to now speak, as expected, about the merit of the book and its inauguration. Srila Prabhupada looked indifferently at the small book in his hand. Speaking over the microphone, he said, So what shall I do? Of course, I do not know the Odia language, but it is said that it is Bhagavata of Jagannatha. So it is inaugurated today. Prabhupada placed the book down and stood up to leave. The audience applauded. Srila Prabhupada then walked off across the sands in the dark, followed by his disciples, and entered a nearby Gaudiya Math temple where the devotees held Kirtana. They then went to another Gaudiya Math temple, Purushottam Math, and again held Kirtana. During the chanting of Purushottam Math, Prabhupada sat in a chair. When he was ready to leave, he began to stand using his cane as a support. But suddenly, as he was about halfway up, he dropped down again onto the chair. Harishauri had to lift him to his feet by holding him under the arms. Prabhupada said nothing, but walked slowly out of the hall and got into the car. Not everyone had noticed Prabhupada's momentary collapse, but Harishauri, on returning to his room, anxiously wrote of it in a letter to a god brother as yet another sign that Srila Prabhupada's health is very quickly dwindling away. Certainly, none of the Puri Panditas had noticed any dwindling from Srila Prabhupada's presentation on behalf of Lord Jagannatha, Lord of the universe. In Bhuvaneshwara, Just before 3 a.m. on the morning of January 30, Srila Prabhupada began dictating the 10th canto of Srimad Bhagavatam. One of his servants in the next room heard through the wall and became so excited that he awakened the other devotees. The dividing wall between the two rooms was about 6 feet high, with an opening above the wall up to the thatched roof. Light from Srila Prabhupada's room shone into the next room through that opening, and his voice, although faint, could be clearly heard. He was dictating a short description of each chapter of the 10th canto. The first chapter, which has 69 verses, he began, describes Maharaja Parikshit's eagerness to learn about the incarnation of Lord Krishna, and it also tells us how Kamsa killed the 6 sons of Devaki because of his fear of being killed by her eighth child. The second chapter contains 42 verses. Prabhupada's patient description of each of the 90 chapters was the epitome of faithful rendering of Parampara knowledge without concoction, interpretation, addition, or subtraction. Therefore, he spoke with the same full faith that the original speaker of the Bhagavatam, Shukadeva Goswami, had spoken with 5,000 years ago to Maharaja Parikshit. Simply by chanting or repeating Krishna Katha, Prabhupada was saying, one is liberated from the contamination of Kali Yuga. This is the mission of Krishna consciousness, to hear about Krishna and thus be liberated from the material bondage. Sitting up on their blankets, the devotees listened. They would not return to sleep. It was an important historic moment. The 10th canto begins 5,000 years ago when the entire world was oppressed by demonic rulers, and Prabhupada was comparing the situation then to the present situation. His words were faint but not weak. He was unhesitating, sure. Without reference to the supreme power of the personality of Godhead, Prabhupada dictated. Demons assert themselves to be independent kings and presidents, and thus they create a disturbance by increasing their military power. When such disturbances are very prominent, Krishna appears. At present also, various demonic states all over the world are increasing their military power in many ways, and the whole situation has become distressful. Therefore, Krishna has appeared by his name in the Hare Krishna movement, which will certainly diminish the burden of the world. Philosophers, religionists, and people in general must take to this movement very seriously, for man-made plans and devices will not help bring peace on earth. Srila Prabhupada was like a field general in his tent, and his disciples were like his infantrymen. They knew they were hearing his battle strategies even before the information was disseminated through the chain of command. They were thrilled with the faith they heard that just as Krishna had defeated the demonic rulers, so the Krishna consciousness movement would counteract the demonic culture of the present age. Later, on the morning walk, one of the devotees mentioned to Prabhupada that they were planning to put his name on a sign on the door saying that on January 30 at 2:50 a.m., Srila Prabhupada began the 10th canto. Prabhupada was pleasantly surprised that they had heard him. Krishna's flute can be heard in the 10th canto, said Prabhupada, and the chapters 29 through 34 are the smiling face of Krishna. Another of Srila Prabhupada's GBC men, Satswarupadasa Goswami, had recently replaced Rameshwara Swami as Prabhupada's secretary for the month. Srila Prabhupada Satswarupa asked one evening while sitting with Prabhupada in his quarters, when I first came here, Rameshwara Maharaja said that you had been speaking of how Krishna consciousness would rise to power in the United States, and I find it hard to have that vision, since now it's just the opposite. It is true, said Srila Prabhupada, but now it has only taken its roots. You have to water and protect it. Then you will get fruit. You have to give it protection. People must hear about us by our books, and we have to talk about the books. So it is not that it will happen overnight. No, said Srila Prabhupada. Gradually it will grow. The seed is there. Now protect it by introducing more and more books in every house. Again, Prabhupada referred to the upcoming New York court case. At least tell them to read our books, he said. This is our statement. Our defense is that you first of all read these books and then give your statement. Finish this and then give your judgment. Give them all these 84 books. Srila Prabhupada became excited by the thought of the judges and lawyers reading all his books. He was completely serious and he insisted the devotees get the authorities to read the books as legal evidences. Srila Prabhupada continued. Krishna says, Sarva Dharman Parityajya, surrender to me and give up all other religion. Now the question may arise, why we shall surrender? Then you can argue and go on for 3 years. The whole thing will come out. What is God? What is creation? What is your position? Why you should surrender? And so on and so on. So on. What do you think? Yes, we should introduce the books as much as possible, said Satswarupa. I will write a letter to New York and tell them to emphasize this. Bring all these books in the court, Prabhupada said. One time in Calcutta, there was a big lawyer named Mr. Ghosh. So, on one case, he brought so many books for argument. The judges were friends, so they were mildly criticized him. Oh, Mr. Ghosh, you have brought the whole library? Yes, my lord, said Mr. Ghosh, just to teach you law. Srila Prabhupada laughed and repeated, Yes, my lord, just to teach you law. Prabhupada wanted his disciples to apply the same logic in the New York case. If the judge objected and said, Why have you brought so many books to bother me? The devotee should reply, You have to hear. It may take 12 years to hear, but you have to hear. This is the law. It sounded difficult, but the devotees knew they would have to try. This was Srila Prabhupada's specific instruction for handling the case. We have to say, said Prabhupada, we never try to brainwash. We have done exactly according to Shastra authority. Here is the evidence. We have not manufactured anything. So they must read all the books. I think you should take defense in that way. Our defense statement is already written on books, said Shahri Shauri. Certain sections are Satswarupa. Or should we say that we have to read all the books? Prabhupada shouted, all, line to line. Our defense is 84 volumes. But they will say, said Guru Kripaswami, if you read all these books, we'll become brainwashed too. That is my duty, said Prabhupada. You are trying to brainwash me, and I am trying to brainwash you. This is going on. That is the tussle. It is wrestling. You are trying your strength, I am trying my strength. Otherwise, where is their fight? You have got right to not agree with me. I have got right to not agree with you. Now let us settle. In Bhuvaneshwara on February 2, the appearance day of Lord Nityananda, Srila Prabhupada held the cornerstone laying ceremony. About 1,000 people came during the day to take prasadam. Seva Shivarat attended and spoke. Prabhupada's disciples, Swarupa Damodara, also spoke, as did Prabhupada himself. Later, Prabhupada discussed with his disciples about how to manage the Bhuvaneshwar center. Some of the sannyasis admitted to Prabhupada that they did not see much potential there. Why not? Questioned Prabhupada. This is the capital of Orissa. People are coming here. We have to have centers in every town, even if it is not a big center. Some have to work and stay here, even if the people are coming every night only to eat the khichdi. That is also preaching. One of the devotees said that it was too far from town and that Orissa was too poor. A better idea might be to try to build a big temple in Jagannath Puri. Srila Prabhupada replied that to build in Jagannath Puri was all right, but that Bhuvaneshwara was also important. Prabhupada's Orient disciple Gaur Govinda Swami told Prabhupada that as soon as the annual India pilgrimage was over, all the devotees would leave and he would be left alone with one or two brahmacharis. He was particularly suited to translating Prabhupada's books into Oriya. So he asked Prabhupada to give him someone to help manage the center. Where is the fat one? Asked Prabhupada. Bring him here. And the devotee ran out to fetch Bhagavata. At the time the devotee found him, Bhagavata was sitting in the visitor's tent telling the other devotees about his plan to go to New York. When he heard Srila Prabhupada wanted to see him, he assumed it was in connection with the cornerstone laying ceremony since he was in charge. But as soon as he entered Prabhupada's room, he sensed something heavy was about to happen. Srila Prabhupada smiled and asked Bhagavata how he was. I am fine, Srila Prabhupada. How would you like to stay here and manage this place? Well, Srila Prabhupada, I don't really think I can stay here. It's too hard. Couldn't you stay here and build this building? I could, but it's very difficult, and I was all set to go to New York. Bhagavata began excitedly telling Prabhupada about a telegram from Adikeshava Swami in New York, inviting him to come and head an important preaching department in the temple. New York, said Prabhupada. They have too many men in New York already. You don't have to go to New York. You should stay here. Bhagavata objected. He couldn't work with Gargamuni Swami, the GBC man for this area of India. Prabhupada replied that he was sending Gargamuni to Bangladesh. He wouldn't be in charge of ISKCON in Orissa anymore. Prabhupada would personally supervise Bhagavata. Bhagavata Dasa's next objection was that his health was not good and he had to sleep a lot. This is a very healthy place, Prabhupada countered. You simply go out in the field to pass stool, then wash with your lota, and afterwards clean the lota with the mud, and you can bathe with the same lota. In this way, you will stay clean and healthy. Bhagavata then raised his ultimate objection. Srila Prabhupada, he said, to tell you the truth, I am not chanting my rounds. I think I do better go to New York because there is good association there and I can become strong in my regulations. That's all right, Prabhupada replied. You're working very hard. So if sometimes you aren't chanting your rounds, that's all right. As long as you are working hard, you can do your rounds at another time. Well, Srila Prabhupada Bhagavat, said Bhagavatadasa. According to the Guru Ashtakam, I can understand that whenever you please the spiritual master, you please Krishna. Prabhupada smiled, yes. So if you want me to stay here, then I should stay. Yes, I want you to stay here. Make life better. Build this building and help manage the place. Although Prabhupada had laid a cornerstone for a temple, the center had no funds or donors in sight and no established congregation. All the devotees had was faith in Srila Prabhupada. Srila Prabhupada's train was to leave at 11 o'clock the next night, and Prabhupada sat in his little hut talking with his disciples until it was time to go. The conversation ranged from World War II politics to the 10th canto of Srimad Bhagavatam. At one point, Srila Prabhupada was saying how man cannot change the laws of nature. Man should not claim that he knows something or can do something unless he can stop the miseries of birth, death, disease, and old age. My position means my karma. Prabhupada explained, if I am in the plush Bhaktivedanta manner, I have the same suffering as I do in this hut. If I think now I am in the manner I am happy, that is foolishness. But that is how they think. Then why are they dying? They should stop that. Can you? My disciples, help me in old age? You may try your best, but you should admit it is beyond your power. But as soon as you go back home, back to God, everything is solved. He spoke about diets. Ghee was not good for him, but to eat only boiled food was like starving. He said he was capable of fasting. If you give me nothing to eat for 3 days, I can do it. Gargamuni told Srila Prabhupada of a man he knew in Calcutta who was healthy at 90 and who attributed his health and longevity to his strict diet on only fruits. Gargamuni suggested Prabhupada try that diet and Prabhupada agreed. Prabhupada mentioned the diet of his spiritual master, Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati. He said, ate very little, but not only fruits. He liked to eat salty things, and his favorite preparation was made from chickpea flour and peanuts fried in ghee. After the talk, when devotees were commenting about Prabhupada's proposed fruit diet, Harishauri remarked affectionately, "He has said that before, but he will never do it." On the overnight train ride to Calcutta, Prabhupada could not rest because of two drunken men in the next compartment. Throughout the night, they were howling and addressing each other. "Oh, Dr. Mukherjee! Oh, Mr. Chatterjee!" Prabhupada remarked with disgust that these were the names of Bengali Brahmana families, but that how they had become drunkards. Jagannathapuri, he said, had been a holy place for thousands of years, but within a few years it would be so no longer. People were using Puri as a seaside resort for recreation. People like Dr. Mukherjee and Mr. Chatterjee, who had no understanding of spiritual life. As the train pulled into Howrah station, Prabhupada sat for a few minutes before disembarking. The vendors' loud cries of chai chai punctured the overall din of humanity and machines. This modern society, Prabhupada sighed. It's very painful to even see their faces. They have fallen so much. By seeing their faces, you become polluted. Last night, they disturbed so much and they think they are happy, they're enjoying life. But we have to take the risk, said Swarupa, to go and preach. Yes, said Prabhupada, if you are engaged in preaching, you are not affected. Sometimes yogis go to the Himalayas just to avoid seeing the face of the vicious persons. They practice yoga in a sacred and solitary place. Otherwise, what's this? Simply chai, chai, chai and cigarettes, beedi, talking nonsense, drinking. Yet the Vedic system is still in India. In the morning, they take bath in the villages, in the cities also, at least those who come from the village. We will find in Bombay many poor men are taking bath early in the morning. You have seen? They will wash their floor, take bath. With fond thoughts of the pure life in the Vedic village, Srila Prabhupada left the station, passing through the crowds and the noise. He knew Calcutta well, better than any of his disciples. The poverty, chaos, and political slogans did not faze him. It was his hometown, but he had no mundane connections there. He was coming only for a few days to preach. Then on to Mayapur.
Yes, Mataji, can you stop there?
Yes,
So we see how Srila Prabhupada, he was the same whether he was in the hut in Bhubaneswar or at Bhaktivedanta Manor. Because a pure devotee of the Lord is not interested in using matter for sense gratification. For him, wherever he goes, every step is a dance, every word is a song, and every day is a festival. So Prabhupada, irrespective of whichever part of the world he was in, he was like that. Every step was a dance for him, every word was a song, and every day was a festival. So this is the vision of a pure devotee. Material energy has its limitations, but material energy becomes perverted when it is used in sense gratification. But material energy, when used in the service of the Lord, becomes glorious. So although it has limitations, material energy, but it becomes glorious. So Prabhupada, being a pure devotee, he knew the art of making material energy glorious. So wherever he went, he made that into a holy place. And we see here how Prabhupada, at the beginning, we saw how he was interested that the courts in New York, they take up our brainwashing, take up the case of brainwashing against us on the merit of our philosophy. So he said 84 volumes, let them read line by line. This is the strong position that he took. Everything they have to read, because this is a very comprehensive philosophy. It is a science, and Prabhupada presented it as a science. So he was ready to take on anybody about any logic or argument that they may pose in regard to God and philosophy. We understand, you ask, what is the difference between God and philosophy? Well, there is something called theology, there's something called philosophy. Philosophy is the study of truth, theology is the study of God. But we say God is the truth. So for us, whether it's theology or philosophy, it's the same. But technically, there is a difference. Theology is the study of God, and philosophy is the study of truth. At least in academic circles, there is that difference. But for us, they are the same. So whether we say philosophy or theology, it's all the same thing for us. So Prabhupada wanted them to study our philosophy and examine it carefully before they pass some judgment about brainwashing. So when the argument is posed to him that they will say we'll get brainwashed, Prabhupada said, yes, that is the point. They are trying to brainwash us with materialistic propaganda, and we are trying to counter it. So let's see who wins. So that's the whole point. That the whole materialistic life, is based on propaganda. Come and enjoy matter. But Krishna says in the Bhagavad Gita, what is pleasurable in the beginning becomes painful in the end. This is the nature of material enjoyment. So, for everything, both spiritual and material, there is a comprehensive way of living which is presented by scripture. Not just spiritual life, but even material life. What works, what does not work. That's why they have the system of varnashrama and different things. So, it is a complete comprehensive science, the method by which people can live in this world in a Krishna conscious manner, using material energy for Krishna service and live blissfully. And at the end of uh, life, get free from the entrapment called the body. Because there's nothing called pious or impious. The very fact that you have a material body means is a sign of impiety, the sign of sin, that we have acquired this material body. But material body itself is not sinful. It's our tendency which is sinful, due to which we acquired a material body. But the tendency can be changed, and the same material body can be engaged in the service of the Lord. So that becomes glorious. So material energy by its per se is not good or bad. It depends on how the energy is being used. So pure devotees come and teach us, give up your sinful mentality, give up your impious mentality, use your material body in the service of the Lord. So this is our philosophy. This is what this whole crux about the brainwashing is. So the materialists are saying, use this material body for sense gratification. And the Krishna conscious philosophy is saying, use this material body for Krishna consciousness. This is the core of the debate. So they are trying to tell us that material body is meant for sense gratification, and we are trying to tell them material body is meant for the service of Krishna. And Prabhupada wanted that to be thoroughly discussed, not just some in a sentimental manner. So therefore, he says, let them read every book, every line. He says, and it's interesting that while meeting the priests of Jagannath Puri, Satsaru Maharaj makes this observation that Prabhupada made his presentation on behalf of Lord Jagannath. It's a very, very important point, that Prabhupada is not making his presentation. Prabhupada is making a presentation on behalf of Lord Jagannath. Because if he is Lord Jagannath, naturally, he is the Lord of everybody in the world. So which means that he wants to see everybody. So why are the foreigners being restricted from seeing the Lord? Because the Lord wants to see. So Prabhupada had that clear conviction, had the clear realization that he is making a presentation on behalf of Lord Jagannath. And we saw how very interestingly, when he was presenting that book, Prabhupada said, I don't know Ria. And he just said it's inaugurated, and he just uh, was indifferent to it. Because that is the characteristic of a Rupanuga, Saraswata Rupanuga especially, that they don't accept anything which is against the philosophy. So for some formality, he still made it very clear that he doesn't know what is there in the book, and he just says it's inaugurated. So just because it's inaugurated does not mean it is bona fide. That's the point that Prabhupada is trying to make there. So Prabhupada knew how to deal with different classes of people. Prabhupada especially was would ever budge from his central position that just to make friends with the priests, or if you are friendly with them, they will help us next time. There is no next time for Prabhupada. Every time is the time. So at any given opportunity, he would always present what is the right thing. He's not interested in some future result, as Prabhupada would say. Trust no future, however pleasant. So it's not like just build some relationship and all that. And finally, let's see. No, he tried to build the relationship plus tell them directly. So this is our founder Acharya, how he dealt with situations in this material world. And here we see how Prabhupada was expert, how he gets Bhagavata Prabhu to manage Bhubaneswar. And it's interesting. These days, it is considered politically incorrect, but I mean, that's just a modern fad. But Prabhupada actually says, where is the fat one? Calls Bhagavata Prabhu. So fat, thin, these are all very common in the ancient. In Vedic tradition, it's never considered offensive to say something like that. How it is being used is very important. Prabhupada just said it jokingly, casually to just bring him and so he could engage him. So it's the context which is also important. It is not spoken of in a disparaging way. It is spoken of in an endearing way. So these are some thoughts which I had when reading this section. If there are any comments, reflections, questions, we can take them now.
Prabhuji, I just observed one point what Prabhupada said about Puri. They like to build a big temple. He said that people will be more interested in the that beach culture, like to have the what to say, like holiday or like that time beside the beach. That is really what has happened because just a week back or some about 10 days back, I was in Puri and it was really like that. It was because it was a holiday season and it was too crowded. And I think most of them were on the beaches. Temple, there were people. I'm not saying that we went to temple. There were people, but I think more than in the temple, the people were there on the beaches. That's what the
The
situation was.
Jagannath Puri seaside has become completely horrible.
Yes, Prabhuji.
Horrible.
And that also with all
Sell,
these
sell
stalls
food,
with the non-vegetarian food and all, it's really unbearable to walk around that place. We have to just close our nose and just walk because the smell is so unbearable.
it is a place where all the crows, the cats, dogs, camels, and asses gather. Refined, polished. This thing. That is the reality.
Yes,
They don't even behave like human beings. They're just
yes,
interested in enjoying like animals. It's a fact.
yes.
That is what becomes the reality of. Yet Mahaprabhu's followers are merciful. We try to go and save even them by distributing a book or having some Harinam Sankirtan along the beach.
Prabhuji, also I saw that because we wanted some prasadam and all, we went to ISKCON. They had a restaurant over there. But when we saw the person who is in charge of the restaurant there, we didn't feel like having the prasadam over there. Because the person when he was talking, he had full of this pan in his mouth, which was so this one that we said, no, we are not going to have prasadam. We went just to temple and we bought the prasadam there and we had the prasadam over there. Because we wanted to ask for train journey, we wanted some
Ask
prasadam.
me no questions about the Jagannath ISKCON temple, and I tell you no lies. I think a lot of people have got that experience, including me. So, John Jagannath, you have tremendous amount of foodstuff cooked in
Yes,
the
Prabhu.
temple.
Yes,
But
Prabhu.
even there, Prabhupada did say that some of them are meat eaters also. They eat fish and all that. Not meat eaters, at least fish. Some of them, even the priests eat fish. But
Mm-hmm.
what can be done? But when it comes to Lord Jagannath, that's absolute.
Jagannath, yes.
I mean, the prasadam is absolute.
Yeah, that is true, Prabhu. It was really nectarian, so we had that only full this one.
I think one thing about Jagannath Puri is that all the priests who serve prasadam in that Anand Bazaar, They have a lot of faith in Jagannath Prasadam. They consider it as not of this world. I remember in 2006 during Rath Yatra, I was there in Jagannath Puri, and there were Radhanath Maharaj was leading a yatra there, Indradupta Maharaj was there, Devamrita Maharaj was there, Charanivas Prabhu was there, Pankajagiri Prabhu was there, Chandramauli Maharaj was there, Sachinandan Maharaj was there. It was a very huge gathering of devotees there in Jagannath Puri. So after the Ratha moves, you can still, they don't cook, I think, on the day of the Rath Yatra. The previous day they cook, something like that. So once the Ratha moved, and it was like peak summer, like blistering hot, humid. So after the Ratha passed, something around 3:30 or 4 o'clock in the evening, I went up to the Jagannath temple, went to the Anand Bazaar, and to look for some food. And they had some rice and dal and everything. That's from the previous day after, or whatever. Yeah. I was a little bit worried because it's almost 24 hours and about the quality of food and whether it would affect my health. So when he uh, offered me a bowl of dal at the mud bowl, mistakenly, I just took that, not mistakenly, but consciously, but it was a mistake. Consciously, I took that bowl of clay pot towards my nose. And this man, he was sitting on the other side of the pots. He jumped out from there and he almost came to slap me. He said, "This is Jagannath Prasadam, and you're trying to smell Jagannath Prasadam. You think it is ordinary?" And I said, I'm sorry. I will not do that. I mean, while I was really scared the way he jumped out and tried to slap me, he didn't slap. But at the same time, I was also ecstatic seeing the amount of faith that they had in Lord Jagannath Prasadam. So I was thinking, if I had this kind of faith, how wonderful it was. But that solved my problem. I never thought about it anymore. I just gulped it, both the rice and the dal. Anyone else has some thoughts or reflections or questions? Okay, I think you can continue for some more time.
Yes, bro. Mayapur, February 7, 1977. More than 80 Bengali Gurukula boys, along with some 100 other devotees, greeted Prabhupada with a kirtana at the front gate of the Mayapur Chandrodaya Mandir. The entire ISKCON land seemed to be blooming with flowers, and the freshly painted temple building shone like the first reddish rays of dawn. The new building, a long residential building, was almost completed. Back to home, back to Godhead, Prabhupada said softly as his car entered the gate and slowly proceeded toward the temple. He was arriving 3 weeks before hundreds of devotees from all over the world were scheduled to come and be with him for the celebration of Gaur Purnima, the appearance day of Lord Chaitanya. Bhavananda Goswami and Jayapataka Swami, Srila Prabhupada's leaders of ISKCON Mayapur, ushered him through the crowd of Gurukula boys and devotees up to the deity room where he beheld and bowed before the shining golden forms of Sri Sri Radha Madhava. Later, while sitting in his room on the second floor, Srila Prabhupada complimented the devotees for making the grounds so beautiful and clean. Hundreds of flowers decorated his room like a gorgeous garden. These flowers are your first success, said Prabhupada. He sat back, relaxed with the special pleasure and satisfaction he felt when in the atmosphere of his beloved Mayapur. For Krishna's service, he said, you submit some plan and he is very glad. We want some flower for Krishna's service and Krishna is supplying. Everything we want for Krishna, not for our sense gratification. For Krishna, we can endeavor multifariously. That is the contribution of Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati. Srila Prabhupada said that prior to Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati, the Vaishnavas used to live retired lives in Vrindavana, no preaching. Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati was the first to demonstrate how pure devotees can preach in sophisticated ways, even living in big buildings and utilizing automobiles in the service of Krishna. People may be envious that these devotees are living in palatial buildings, said Prabhupada. But Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur said, only the devotees shall live in palatial buildings. Only devotees. Just like government servants are given the best places to live in. Similarly, those who are devotees, they should be given all facilities, not extravagancy, not luxury, but nice food, nice place, nice facilities, and chant Hare Krishna. This is our mission. This is not dry. Especially you coming from America and Europe, you are not accustomed to the hardships of Indian people. You must have the bare necessities of comfort and serve Krishna. This I am trying to do and utilize. Prabhupada thanked the devotees present for working in Krishna consciousness, and he reiterated his familiar formula that American brains and American money combined with Indian culture would turn the whole world into a heaven. Later, Srila Prabhupada went to oversee the new building, the longest building in West Bengal. Jayapataka Swami said, more than 700 feet. Srila Prabhupada said, it looked like a train. He inspected all the rooms one by one and emphasized that they must be ready in time for the festival. Walking along the veranda, he remarked, oh, it's just like Fifth Avenue. The next few days were quiet. Prabhupada would sit taking his massage in the late morning on the roof amid hundreds of potted plants. Leaning on the rail of the veranda outside his room, one day he looked down onto the lawn where one of the women was picking flowers for the deities. This is temple, he said. Always something going on. And with each flower pick, she advances in spiritual life a little more. Prabhupada particularly liked that the Mayapur Chandrodaya Mandir was always being expanded and improved. He liked to look out from the veranda and see guests arriving, devotees working, and new plans manifesting. Hare Krishna, sorry Prabhuji, if somebody can continue, it would be nice, Prabhuji, because I have some throat issues, Prabhu. Sorry, Prabhu.
Where have you reached? Well, I can't see this. To
Sorry, Prabhuji.
scroll on my mobile.
Yeah, I had some little issue with my throat today. In the Maya puts that picking of the flowers, Prabhuji.
I know, but is it which paragraph here?
Um, yeah, it's here in the, because I think Prabhuji can just highlight that. Prabhu.
Rudradeep Nimai, can you please continue for some time? Highlight
Uh,
and continue.
I'm trying to look for it. Prabhu.
No, it's on the same page that you're displaying, right?
Yeah, yeah. That pic, yeah,
So,
here it is. Yes, Prabhu. The next paragraph. Prabhupada thanked the devotees present.
okay.
No, not
Prabhupada,
that.
Prabhupada thanked the
No, no, that is
devotees.
done, Prabhuji. Prabhupada thanked is done. Later on, manifesting. Yeah, manifesting it is done. So now, but Prabhupada's ill health persisted
No,
from
but it's
the.
okay. It's okay. Let him repeat. No problem. Let him
Yes,
continue.
Prabhuji. Yes.
Later, Srila Prabhupada went to oversee the new building, the longest building in West Bengal. Jayapataka Swami said, more than 700 feet. Srila Prabhupada said, it looked like a train. He inspected all the rooms one by one and emphasized that they must be ready in time for the festival. Walking along the veranda, he remarked, oh, it's just like Fifth Avenue. The next few days were quiet. Prabhupada would sit, taking his massage in the late morning of the roof amid hundreds of potted plants. Leaning on the rail of the veranda outside his room one day, he looked down onto the lawn where one of the women were picking flowers for the deities. This is temple, he said. Always something going on, and with each flower picked, she advances in spiritual life a little more. Prabhupada particularly liked that the Mayapur Chandrodaya Mandir was always being expanded and improved. He liked to look out from the veranda and see guests arriving, devotees working, and new plans manifesting. But Prabhupada's ill health persisted. an imbalance of pitta and vayu, bile and air, he said. One morning, when his servant asked him how he felt, he replied, very bad. But sometimes after a very bad morning, he would feel much better. The devotees did not think of Prabhupada's illness in a material way, but it caused them anxiety. Over the years, he had gone through various health crises, and the devotees knew these illnesses were transcendental, directly controlled by Krishna. In 1974, when he had been very ill in Vrindavan, he had said that the cause was his disciples not strictly following the rules and principles of Krishna consciousness. His disciples knew they had to strictly follow his orders if they actually cared for his health. He would go on taking risks, accepting more disciples, traveling and preaching, but his disciples had to avoid acting in ways that would disturb his health. Mostly the devotees preferred to think that Prabhupada's health would soon improve, and Srila Prabhupada himself did not dwell on the subject. He was too absorbed in spreading the Krishna conscious movement. A few days after his arrival, Srila Prabhupada journeyed by car and ferry to Navadvip to visit the ashram of his godbrother Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Maharaj, Bhakti, Bhakti Rakshaka Sridhar Maharaj. But while walking up the steep stone steps, Prabhupada's legs suddenly gave way and he collapsed. Fortunately, Harisari was close enough to catch him. It was the second time Prabhupada had collapsed in less than 2 weeks. Both times he had been when he had been actively preaching, and both times he had continued on his way with no mention of what happened. In Bhubaneswar, Srila Prabhupada had promised Swarup Damodar he would go to Mayapur with him after the Mayapur festival. Manipur, an independent country north of India, was mentioned in the Vedic literature. Prabhupada said, Arjuna's wife Chitrangada had come from Manipur, and it had been ruled by Krishna-conscious Kshatriyas. Now, Srila Prabhupada, encouraged by Swarup Damodar, who was born and raised in Manipur, was eager to go and try to revive a Krishna-conscious state there. But with his weakening health, he questioned whether he should travel. Harisari, who had been with Prabhupada continually for 18 months, felt that Prabhupada's health was not likely to improve, and in one sense, the Krishna conscious movement was spreading so widely under Prabhupada's direction that it was perhaps not so necessary for Prabhupada to travel, at least not with the extraordinary expenditure of energy and strength that he had been displaying for the last 10 years. Maybe he could retire from traveling. Even during the previous summer, when he had been traveling in the United States, he had once remarked that he simply wanted to go there to become encouraged by how well his devotees were managing everything by themselves. He used to say that he had laid the foundation and erected the framework for the building of the Krishna consciousness movement. Now his followers simply had to fill it in. He would often say that he injected medicine into the system of materialistic society. Now it would spread and act. He also said that he had ignited the fire that would now rage around the world. Therefore, although he was always anxious for his movement, he had confidence. One morning, just after breakfast, Prabhupada was on the veranda looking out across the land of Mayapur. Turning to Harisari, he said, Actually, it does not matter even if I die immediately. I have given the basis for everything, and now if they simply manage things nicely and follow whatever programs I have begun, then everything will be successful. Harisari was disturbed to hear such statements and he remained speechless. Then Prabhupada added, But still, I would like to finish the Srimad Bhagavatam. Srila Prabhupada's stay at ISKCON Mayapur had been quiet, but as the GBC men began arriving from the west, he heard the latest news of the fierce opposition to Krishna consciousness in America. Ramakrishna Goswami and Brahmananda Swami, coming from New York, reported that the case in which Adi Keshava Swami was being charged with mind control would be heard later in March, and that the judge and that the judge had given Adi Keshava permission to come and see Srila Prabhupada. They also they also told Prabhupada that several other devotees had been kidnapped, and that in some cases parents had secured legal conservatorship through judges to abduct the devotees. What is the complaint of the opposing party? Asked Prabhupada. Again, as when he had argued with Rameshwara Swami, he defended the Krishna conscious movement while his disciples fired materialistic arguments at him. It was not just an exercise, he was training his disciples. He had to answer any arguments that had discouraged or weakened them. And beyond that, he was actually the ultimate defender of Krishna consciousness. They say we're zombies, said Brahmananda. Zombies, Prabhupada asked. What is that? Zombies, said Harisari, like robot. We have no brain, we're like machines. They say we have no freedom of choice. Children have also children have got also the same thing, replied Prabhupada. But the father stops. Children want to play. They do not like to go to school. Father does not like it. Is that the father's attempt to check the child's freedom? Every father is doing like every father is doing that. The government is doing that. Why the government is checking criminals? Prabhupada was interested to hear other news, and Tamal Krishna Goswami reported on the new ISKCON farm in Pennsylvania, on the restaurant in New York City, and on the restaurant in New York City. Brahmananda Swami talked about their new farm in Africa, and both he and Tamal Krishna gave their impression of things at Hare Krishna land in Bombay and reported on Gopal Krishna's progress in printing Prabhupada's books in various Indian languages. So this is the thing that is starting to happen now, said Tamal Krishna. They are lobbying in the Congress of the United States to pass laws that if someone is abnormal, then the parents should have the right to commit him to psychological treatments. Even though the child may be 50 years old and the parents 70 years old, if the parents think that the child is not sane, then they have the right to have the child committed. That this is very dangerous, said Prabhupada. They told Prabhupada of a devotee who had been kidnapped while distributing books at an airport. The court had given the girl's parents legal authority to have her confined for 30 days in a special center in Arizona run by deprogrammers. They also told him that among the lobbyists advocating kidnapping were powerful groups of Christians and Jews who had become active because they saw that other movements, not only the Krishna conscious movement, were taking young people away from the religion of their parents. Kamal Krishna suggested that a probable result of ISKCON's court case in New York would be to establish ISKCON as bona fide. Defenders of civil rights in America were alarmed at the threat of constitutional liberties, and therefore the court case was regenerating great interest. It was a test of freedom of religion, Ramakrishna told Prabhupada. It was the biggest test case of the decade, and the American Civil Liberties Union had taken it as one of their main priorities. 2 states have passed laws making this deprogramming legal, and said Brahmananda Swami, and they also give tax exemption. That means the government is giving support. Yes, said Prabhupada. They are afraid that these Krishna conscious men may capture the government. Yes, agreed, Tamal Krishna Goswami. Some of them are saying that the Krishna conscious organization is very powerful and that our ambition is to take over the world. Srila Prabhupada laughed. That's a fact. Well, let us see. It is a fight between Krishna and demon. Let us do our duty and chant Hare Krishna, everything will be all right. There were so many demons. Prahlad Maharaj was 5 years old, boy, and his father was such a big demon. Still, Prahlad Maharaj was victorious. Similarly, you are all like Prahlad Maharaj. The fight is there. Chant Hare Krishna. Depend on Krishna. You will come out victorious. Shringadev will come. So the poison of Krishna consciousness is acting now. That is good. If we come out victorious, that will be a great victory. As they spoke, the electricity went off, and Prabhupada's room, as well as the rest of the building, was in darkness. Within a few moments, a devotee entered with a kerosene lantern. Prabhupada began to reminisce. saying that electricity had been introduced in India when he was a young boy. At first, not every house could afford electricity, he said, and if a man had good gas light in his house, he was considered rich. He said the street lamps were carbon arc, and the men who changed the carbon rods would throw the used ones on the street. When the when the carbon would be changed, Srila Prabhupada, they would throw, and we children would collect them. What would you do with them? Asked Ramakrishna. Srila Prabhupada laughed and said, Play. We have collected something. So electricity was introduced in our life when we were 10 or 12. But still, you were able to read? Said Brahmananda. Yes, said Prabhupada. With this lantern, he recalled that his father would purchase kerosene for the lanterns. His father was not rich, but by buying the stocking things in and stocking things in quantity, he used to amply provide for his family. Life was simple then, Prabhupada concluded, but civilized. The sannyasis began telling Prabhupada about how a military dictatorship has taken over in Argentina and had officially banned the Krishna conscious movement. $20,000 worth of books have been seized, and the devotees had been arrested. Many other people were being regularly arrested or shot in the streets. Things are deteriorating everywhere, said Prabhupada. Very quickly, added Brahmananda. Srila Prabhupada. So this will give impetus to Krishna consciousness. Yada yada hi dharmasya glani. Don't be disappointed. Krishna will act through his movement and kill them. These demons, how it will be done, that you cannot know now, but it will be done. Let us remain true soldiers, that's all. And suppose you die in the fight? Fight means with vow, with determination either to gain victory or die, because it's a fight against Maya. Why you shall be afraid of being killed? When there is a fight, one must know that either I'm going to be killed or gain victory. Jiva va marava. Those who are devotees, either they live or they die. It is the same thing. While they live, they are serving Krishna. When they die, they will serve Krishna. Jiva va marava takta deham punarjanmam naiti mam eti. He goes to Krishna. So what is the loss? We're working for Krishna, and if we die, we go to Krishna. What is the loss? A few days later, Adikeshava Swami arrived in Mayapur to see Srila Prabhupada. Adikeshava was only 23 years old, and all these things were creating a great strain upon him. Upon his lawyer's advice, he had come to India in desperation to see Srila Prabhupada. For the preliminary hearings, he had worn a business suit and a regular haircut. But now he appeared before Srila Prabhupada with shaven head and saffron robes. Other sannyasis had also arrived, and they all gathered in Prabhupada's room, eager to get his direction. This movement is not brainwashing, Prabhupada began. We're brain giving. First of all, you must give brain. You must have brain. Then there is a question of washing. But you have no brain. You do not know what is this life. You cannot explain what is the difference between a dead man and a living man. You have got so many big scientists and philosophers, and you do not know. So where is your brain? First of all, prove your brain. Then there can be question of washing. It is not brainwashing, it is brain giving movement. Unfortunately, you have no brain, therefore you misunderstand. On this point, the Bhagavad Gita will explain. What do you think? Brainwashing or brain giving? Yes, said Adikeshava. This is good. Prabhupada said the devotees should consult among themselves, write an essay, and send it to the court. His main point was that most people could not understand the simple truth of the soul. They are in need of knowledge, and Krishna conscious movement is giving essential knowledge of the soul. Therefore, it is a brain-giving movement. Adikeshava took the roles of the antagonists. Well, he said, I have a brain and it's functioning. Otherwise, how could I be speaking to you now? How could I even answer you? But that speaking and the dog's barking are the same thing, said Prabhupada. The dog is barking. What is the difference? He's speaking in a different language, that's all. The dog is barking and you are barking and you are speaking. What is the difference, Adikeshwar? But they say we have art, we have science. Whatever you have, you may have, Prabhupada replied. You cannot answer the ultimate question. Arguments flew back and forth, and other devotees in the room challenged Prabhupada's logic. But Prabhupada stuck to his main point. If a man does not know the difference between a dead man and a living man, if he doesn't know the soul, then he has no brain. When the devotees mentioned faith in scripture, Prabhupada said that he was not arguing on the basis of scripture, but on logic. Whatever arguments they raised, Prabhupada strongly defeated. There was no trace of illness or weakness in Prabhupada's demeanor as he drilled his men on how to defend by aggressive argument. They say that this discussion is beyond our intelligence, say Adikeshava. If you say beyond your intelligence, said Srila Prabhupada, that means you have no brain. In Prabhupada's association, Adikeshava gained strength and conviction. They complain, say Adikeshava, that if one becomes a devotee, he suffers from loss of identity, but actually they don't know who they are. So we will challenge them like that. What is this loss of identity? You don't even know who you are, so you have nothing to lose. Yes, said Prabhupada with great spirit. What is your identification? That you do not know. We are teaching that by identifying yourself with this body, and you have lost your identity. Most of their charges, said Adikeshava, are based on misconceptions about our movement. For instance, they say that we do not eat enough or sleep enough. Yet we have studies from their own scientists that say our diet is good. Srila Prabhupada, how we are living if our diet is not good? 10 years we're eating insufficiently, and then how we are living? You do not know what is good food, but the result you have to know. A cow eats so much grass, and a human being eats a small plateful. If the cow says you're not eating sufficient like me, is that logic? No, said Adikeshava, it's not logic. Prabhupada, if so, you are just like cows and asses. You eat voraciously. Does that mean I have to eat voraciously? But what proof is there? Asked Ramakrishna Goswami. They may argue for proof of the soul. This is the proof, said Srila Prabhupada. Now, if the real active principle has left, if you can understand it, then replace it. Replace life. If you cannot, you have no brain. Prabhupada argued that at death, although the parts of body remained, something was missing. But you have not seen that something, said Ramakrishna. See it or not, said Prabhupada. I can see. Why is why is why this man is dead? Something is missing. Well, said Ramakrishna, it's just like a machine. So Srila Prabhupada became fiery. A machine you can replace. Why don't you bring a new body and replace the dead one? Therefore, you have no brain. It is a completely different thing. Prabhupada said this philosophy of the soul should be presented in court. It will be very interesting, he said. The case will prolong and we can disclose our whole philosophy, is it not? Think deeply, over and over, and fight. Tell them, what is your seeing? You cannot see beyond this wall. Does that mean there is nothing? Why depend on your seeing, rascal? You're being brainless. I can take it as a good opportunity for describing our whole philosophy. Don't take it as otherwise. Rather, prove yourself sufficient in this subject matter. This is a trial examination. The devotees told Prabhupada how critics were examining the Srimad Bhagavatam and trying to find fault within the devotees on the basis of their philosophy. They were challenged in court about Prabhupada's statement that a man had not gone to the moon. I personally did not go with you, said Srila Prabhupada. So how shall I believe? From the practical point of view, I did not go. It is just some news, so why should I accept it? They believe some paper, that's all. So why shall we not believe the Vedic literatures? Vedic literatures is so authoritative, it has been accepted by the acharyas. Next, the devotees began talking about how the parents and the deprogrammers justified their use of force. This clouds the issue of the cloak in the courtroom. says Krishna Goswami. But everyone naturally feels very sympathetic toward the father and the mother. Why don't you quote from our Shastra, replied Srila Prabhupada, that he is not the father? Pita na sa sat. Find this verse. Pradyumna had the book off the shelf and his finger on the verse. Within a few seconds, he read, Gurur na sa syat swa jano na sa syat pita na sa swaj janani na sa syat daivam na tat syanta na patis cha na syan na mochayed ya samupeta mrityum. One who cannot deliver his dependents from the path of repeated birth and death should never become a spiritual master, a father, husband, mother, or a worshipable demigod. So how is he the father? Asked Prabhupada. What is the purport? Adikeshava Swami. They argue sometimes that, yeah, you will argue your point, interrupted Prabhupada. But our point is there. We shall argue from our point of view. Unless the father releases the son from the cycle of birth and death, he is not father. Srila Prabhupada never let up, and finally he concluded, if you try to advise a rascal, he will be angry. So this is the position. Still, you have to do your business. Still, we have to do our business. What can be done? Difficult task. Therefore, if you want to please Krishna very quickly, struggle for preaching. Ya idam paramam guhyam mad bhakte swa abhidhasyati. So we have to we have got our business to please Krishna, that is our mission. So despite so many inconveniences, we have to do this business. Mudho yam nabhijanati loko mam ajam avvayam. They are all mudhas. So we have been engaged to teach them some lesson. I'm never manifested to the foolish and unintelligent. For them, I'm covered by my eternal creative potency. And so, the deluded world knows me not, who am unborn and infallible. Bhagavad Gita 7.25. Later, Srila Prabhupada spoke privately and in more detail with Adikeshava Swami. They told me that you had grown your hair, said Prabhupada. Adikeshava admitted it was not so, but that he couldn't do it anymore. He said he wanted to go to the court.
I think the flow of nectar had continued for a long time. I didn't want to stop it.
Okay,
We'll stop here we'll stop here for today, because the argument parts of it are still going to come a little bit more. But I think that we don't have enough time to examine all the arguments that Prabhupada gave. At the beginning of next session, I think we'll take up all the different arguments that Prabhupada gives. Meanwhile, if someone has some reflections or thoughts or questions or comments, this is the only class in Prabhupada Lilamrita session where we just went on and on. I just didn't know where to stop. It's just, flow of nectar. A strong argument that Prabhupada gives. I was thinking that we will definitely do it in next session. Take one by one each of the arguments that Prabhupada gives.
Hare Krishna, Prabhu.
Yes,
Prabhu, this question was there quite a long time. The spiritual master's body is transcendental. That's what we read. In the same paragraph, it is continued like Prabhupada once said, his body, he's falling sick just because of the disciples are not following the regulative principles. So how to understand? Outwardly, it looks like contradiction, but definitely there will be some inner meaning. So could you please explain it?
There's a difference between body being affected and person being affected. So you're providing an inconvenient situation for the spiritual master by making his body sick. That is the understanding. The spiritual master never becomes sick, but his body may become sick. That's not mundane in the sense it's not caused by him. It is caused by the disciples here in this case. So you're providing a very inconvenient, unconducive. You're supposed to offer a very nice facility for the Guru, right? So you're making his body difficult for him to live in. Body is an apartment. So you're not providing him a proper apartment. You're messing up with the apartment. That's what it means. Prabhupada, despite whatever situation he was in, he was always in transcendental consciousness.
So Prabhupada went through the pain and pleasure through his body.
Yeah. They
Right?
say they went through the pain and pleasure means their activities cannot be like how we feel pain and pleasure. It's not how they feel pain and pleasure. Our pain and pleasure is due to material identification. But what they experience is not material identification. Like how when Krishna appeared on this planet, Brahma, who's the most intelligent being in this universe, he gets bewildered seeing Krishna's pastimes. Hey, this looks like ordinary boy, but it's not. So like that, when they inhabit human bodies, the pure devotees, or when Krishna appears in a human form, that his body is Sachidananda. So they behave like human beings. That does not mean that they're affected by pains and pleasures like the way we are affected. Does not mean that they don't experience. But it's like, how do you say, you're providing a very inconvenient atmosphere for the Guru to perform his work, but he'll still go on with his work. That is the real thing, right? The body is you're providing a very inconvenient situation for the spiritual master to work, because of you're not following. His body is deteriorating, but he is not deteriorating in his consciousness. So we as disciples, we can do our best to offer him a very nice room, nice flowers, nice incense, like that. So if we follow the principles nicely, then he will get a very nice facility to execute his Krishna consciousness. But we are messing up with that thing. It is said that his body is material in the sense that messing up is not happening because of his karma. That messing up is happening because disciples are not following. The spiritual master is not the body, by the way. The body of the spiritual master is also the property of Krishna. The spiritual master is not the body. That understanding should be clearly there. He is not the body either. The body belongs to Krishna.
Thank you, Prabhu. There's one more question.
Yeah.
How to understand the success and failure of preaching, Prabhu? Because continuously today the topic was preaching. So what is the meaning?
Prabhupada never bothered about success and failure of preaching. Prabhupada considered it glorious if one tries to execute the order of the spiritual master. So both success and failure are part of dualities of this material life. In spiritual life and Krishna consciousness, there is only Param Vijayate Sri Krishna Sankirtanam. So everybody can be victorious by taking up the order of the spiritual master seriously. That's all. Because the results are not in our hands. One can only take up the spiritual order of the spiritual master seriously, try to execute them. And whatever results we get are by the will of Krishna. If he wants us to get a result, he will get us. If he doesn't want us, he won't. But that should not prevent us from carrying out the order of the spiritual master. That is the point. Success and failure are concepts of materialistic consciousness. So, to explain that further, we are driven in this world by success or failure. That's what it means in the material life. But in spiritual life, we are not driven by success or failure. We are driven by the pleasure of Krishna. If I were to be able to give pleasure to Krishna, even if my endeavor is failure, so what? The goal of the endeavor is to give pleasure to Krishna. So we are focused on giving pleasure to Krishna. As Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur would say, the sannyasis are of the Gaudiya Math. Sorry. The sannyasis of the Gaudiya Math are the living mridangas of Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. And their business is to constantly give forth music at the lotus feet of Sri Guru and Gauranga. So they are the living mridangas, and basically you can extend that to any preacher. They are the living mridangas of Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, and their business is to give constant music at the lotus feet of Sri Guru and Gaura. This is our goal in life. How shall we please Krishna? Our goal in life is not how shall we succeed. Our goal in life is how shall I please Krishna? We are not trying to be the best. That is materialistic consciousness. Complete materialistic consciousness. We are not trying to be the best. We are trying to do our best. That's it. And we are satisfied doing our best. Means we do our best and we keep on doing our best. Each day we want that best to be better than the previous best. That's all.
What is the difference, Prabhu? Doing our
Being the
best.
best means if you're a student, okay, it does not mean that you become the first rank holder in the class. No. By doing your best, if you become first rank holder, fine. But even if you are a 10th rank holder, as long as you have done your best, that's it. So first rank holder is equal to 10th rank holder in Krishna consciousness. Because Krishna does not see the first rank or the 10th rank. He sees what effort you have put in. That's the meaning.
Yes, I got it. But Prabhu, just one more question, that's all.
No
Prabhu,
problem.
when we are preaching, when somebody is not accepting Krishna conscious, so outwardly it is a failure. So how will it please the Lord?
Where is it defined that when you preach to someone, if they don't take to Krishna consciousness, it's a failure? It doesn't say that. Our philosophy is not that. No, Prabhupada said most of the people will not take to Krishna consciousness anyway. It's not that people will all take to Krishna consciousness. It's not like that. We have to make our sincere effort, and it depends on that person's sincerity, Krishna's intervention. It depends on factors well beyond our effort. That's it. So it is not that it is a failure if somebody doesn't become a devotee. In fact, as Prabhupada said, don't be surprised if people don't become devotees. Be surprised if they become devotees.
Okay.
Yeah.
And behalf of other devotees, I wanted to request you, what have you decided about this Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati course?
I haven't thought about it, but we still have quite some time to finish. So yeah, let me just give you some more time. I haven't had time to think. Been
Even
having
I
a
have the same.
pretty hectic time. So
Okay.
I will think about it. Yes, but yeah. In the
Even
coming
I
weeks,
was waiting for that.
yeah. Okay.
And if it is continued, let it be on Sunday, same timing, Prabhu. That is
Yeah,
comfortable.
we will not change it to Thursdays. No, we'll continue it on
Yes.
Sunday.
Yes. Thank you so much. Hare Krishna.
Okay, I think we are well over time today, but if still someone has something to say, you're open. I'm open to it. Else we can close for today. Yes, Prabhu. Yes.
Just a very quick question, just a clarification. I might perhaps misheard. Was there a section when we read that one of the was it a Srila Prabhupada disciple, or was it a god brother that is going on the other side in this court case to provide witness statements against Prabhupada's movement? I couldn't understand whether it was a
proper disciple.
Okay, because he then called them rascals, and then he said,
Yeah.
"My Guru Maharaj said that they." So I misunderstood that to mean that perhaps they were his god brothers. So.
It was a disciple of Prabhupada. Disciple.
Okay.
Prabhupada said, my Guru Maharaj has rejected him. Yes.
Yeah, that's what I couldn't understand, because he said my Guru Maharaj has rejected them. So yeah, okay. Yeah, I understand the mood now. Do you know who it was?
I don't know. I think when I read that, I also wanted to find out who it was.
Okay. No, it's a very beautiful section we've just been through, just full of nectar. So thank you.
Yeah. And the arguments are very strong. We just need to take up one by one how Prabhupada is responding to it. I mean, if we take it up, then I think we remember it also when arguments come up against our preaching. Especially, I like that argument where Prabhupada is saying it's beyond our intelligence. And then Prabhupada is saying, when he is present, the argument beyond our intelligence, Prabhupada is saying, that's what I'm saying. You don't have a brain, we're giving you a brain.
I know we're going to come on to it, but I just can't wait. Do you know whether they actually presented the case where they wanted the prosecution to actually read all the books? Did they
I don't know if
present?
they read all the books. Of course, we won the case that's there. I need to ask someone from that time period. Rameshwar Prabhu is here, but maybe you can ask him actually what happened.
As to whether they actually put forward that argument and whether they actually got anywhere with getting them to actually.
So we won the case. They did hear our
No, I know
arguments,
we
but
won the
what
case. I wasn't sure whether the reading of the books was enforced upon in court, whether that argument was actually presented or not. I know Prabhupada said you should present it, but whether it was actually presented in court and whether there was any take up of that or whether it was rejected by the judge.
No, their arguments were present in the court. What arguments were present, I need to find out. Definitely. Arguments were present in the court. That's how we finally won. But what arguments were present, I don't know. I need to find out.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, so we'll resume again next Sunday. Vanchakalpatarubhyascha, Prasannamevacha, Paritanam Pavanibhyascha.